Along the edge of a roaring highway, dust swirled in the air as cars rushed past in blurs of steel and light. There, padding slowly on the gravel shoulder, moved a scruffy stray dog. His fur was tangled, his ribs sharp beneath his thin frame, yet his amber eyes burned with a stubborn will to live. Each day was the same, scavenging for scraps, sniffing at trash, fighting hunger with sheer resilience. But this evening, fate shifted. The low thunder of engines grew louder, swelling like a storm rolling over the horizon. A pack of bikers burst into view, leather-clad and rowdy, their laughter booming over the hum of the road. They were the kind of men who thrived on power and intimidation, and when their eyes caught the dog standing calmly at the roadside, their amusement was instant. "Look at that walking corpse," one of them shouted, his voice drowned in the revving of engines. They laughed louder, circling him like predators toying with prey. But the dog did not cower. His tail flicked once, not in fear but in quiet defiance. His gaze locked on theirs, steady and unflinching. Something in that look made Talon, the bearded leader with eyes sharp as knives, lean forward on his handlebars. In that single moment, the balance shifted. The encounter on the highway would ignite a chain of events none of them expected. The bikers closed in around the dog, their engines snarling like beasts ready to pounce. One of them, thin and wiry with a skull tattoo on his neck, tossed a half-eaten sandwich at the animal. The dog sniffed it once, then stepped back, refusing the offering. "Too picky for a stray?" the biker sneered. His friends clapped and barked mockingly, their laughter rising in the fading light. Some revved their engines to scare him, the roaring vibration shaking the ground beneath his paws. Still, the dog held his place. His body low, his eyes steady. He did not bark. He did not flee. His silence unsettled them more than noise ever could. Talon narrowed his eyes, irritation cutting through his grin. From his saddlebag, he pulled a small firecracker and lit it with a flick of his lighter. With a casual toss, he sent it sparking into the dirt near the dog. The crack exploded through the evening air. The stray darted back, his tail tucked tight, but then he stopped. Slowly, deliberately, he turned back toward them. His tail wagged once, hesitant yet steady, and his amber eyes found Talon's. For the first time, Talon's smirk faltered. He muttered under his breath, "You've got more nerve than half my crew." The bikers laughed again, but this time the laughter was thinner, uncertain. Talon crouched low, stretching out a hand as if in a challenge. "You're not afraid of anything, are you, boy?" The dog inched forward, sniffed his boot, then retreated just as one biker revved his engine. The moment broke. Talon's expression hardened. With a grunt, he stood and barked an order. "Let's ride." The pack thundered down the highway, their laughter trailing behind like smoke. The dog remained where he stood, watching their retreat. Then, with a quiet determination, he turned toward the trees. His steps carried purpose, as though this night was only the beginning. The rumble of motorcycles faded into the horizon, leaving only the hum of cicadas and the whisper of the evening wind. The stray slipped into the cover of trees, his lean body weaving silently through brush and shadow. His paws knew the path well. This was not the first time he had trailed those men. For weeks, he had followed at a distance, learning the rhythm of their rides, the places they stopped, the careless scraps they left behind. To them, he was nothing but a mutt scavenging for survival. To him, they were more than loud intruders. They were a puzzle he was slowly piecing together. Tonight, the bikers gathered at their usual haunt, a broken-down gas station long abandoned to weeds and silence. They parked in a loose circle, their headlights slicing across cracked pavement, their voices rising in drunken cheer. Beer cans popped open, smoke curled into the night, and their laughter tried to fill the emptiness of the ruins. From the shadows, two golden eyes watched. The dog crouched low, nose twitching. He ignored the half-eaten food scattered near their boot. His focus lay elsewhere, on a pile of saddlebags leaning against a rusting pump. One bag in particular carried a scent that made his fur bristle, smoke, leather, and something darker. As he crept closer, silent as moonlight, a laugh cut short in the group. Snake, the wiry one with the tattoo, spotted him first. Talon, he muttered, unease in his tone, that dog. It's here. The group fell silent. Their rowdy bravado thinned as they turned to see the stray standing at the edge of the light, head tilted, eyes gleaming. He didn't run. He didn't bark. He simply stood, as though daring them to act. The night had shifted. What they thought was a meaningless animal was now a shadow haunting their every move. The air around the gas station grew heavy, silence pressing against the bikers as they stared at the dog. Talon rose from where he sat, tossing aside an empty can. His boots crunched over the cracked asphalt as he stepped forward. "What's he doing here?" he growled. His crew exchanged nervous glances, none willing to answer. The stray didn't flinch. Instead, he lowered his head, padded toward the row of saddlebags, and sniffed intently. For a moment no one moved. Then, with a sudden jerk, he clamped his teeth on the strap of one bag and pulled. The leather toppled, spilling its contents across the ground: tools, jackets, spare parts, and one small package wrapped tightly in black tape. It rolled to Talon's boots like a guilty secret exposed to the night. Snake froze. That ain't mine," he stammered. Talon bent, snatching the packet up. His eyes darkened as he turned to his men. "This came from our last job. Who brought it here?" No one answered. The weight of silence was heavier than the sound of engines. For a heartbeat, only the stray's steady breathing filled the night. Then, as if sensing his work was done, the dog melted back into the darkness. One moment he was there, golden eyes gleaming, the next he was gone. The crew tensed. Snake broke the silence, his voice low and uneasy. "What if someone sent him? What if it's not just a dog?" Talon's jaw tightened. He shoved the packet back into the bag and zipped it shut. "Shut up. Mount up. We're leaving." But as the engines roared to life, unease settled deep in their bones. The dog hadn't just scavenged. He had chosen. And what he chose to reveal was enough to fracture trust between them. Deep in the forest, the stray moved with purpose, his paws tracing a path only he knew. The moon hung low, silver light spilling through branches as if guiding him forward. Finally, he reached a small clearing where a lone figure knelt beside a campfire. The man was old, his face weathered by time, his clothes simple and worn. His hands, though calloused, were gentle as he extended them toward the dog. "You're back," he murmured, voice steady and kind. "And I can tell you've seen something." The dog wagged his tail faintly, pressing his muzzle against the man's palm before tugging at a scrap of cloth hidden near the fire. The old man took it, lifting it to his nose. His eyes narrowed. "Drugs," he muttered, voice low and grim. "So it is them again." He wasn't just a wanderer. Once, he had been a ranger, keeper of the woods, protector of its balance. Retirement had taken him from duty, but the forest still spoke to him. And now, through the dog, it whispered of men who carried poison through the land. "You've been watching them, haven't you?" he asked softly. The dog's tail gave a single thump against the ground, silent confirmation. The old man opened a battered notebook filled with sketches and scribbled notes, times, dates, descriptions of the bikers and their bike. "They're careless," he said, flipping a page. "But dangerous." Closing the book, he looked down at the golden-eyed stray. "If you've chosen me, then we'll finish this together. Let's see how brave these men are when the night itself turns against them." The fire crackled low. In the shadows, the dog's eyes gleamed with the same determination as his human companion. A pact, silent yet unbreakable, was sealed beneath the stars. The bikers didn't ride far that night. Their laughter was gone, replaced by tense silence as they settled in a clearing at the forest's edge. The glow of a small fire threw jagged shadows across their faces, revealing unease that no amount of bravado could hide. Talon paced like a caged predator, his boots grinding the dirt. The black-taped packet weighed heavy in his thoughts. Snake leaned against his bike, a cigarette trembling between his fingers. The others muttered low, their eyes flicking to the darkness beyond the fire. That dog knew, Snake said finally, breaking the silence. It didn't just stumble onto the bag. It knew. Shut it, Talon snapped, though his own voice lacked conviction. It's just a stray. Don't give it more credit than it deserves. But Snake shook his head, smoke curling around his uneasy grin. You saw the way it looked at us. That wasn't a mutt. That was something else. The fire crackled, filling the pause that followed. No one dared say what they were thinking, that maybe Snake was right. From a hidden perch above the clearing, the old man and the golden-eyed dog watched. The ranger's sharp eyes noted every twitch of unease, every nervous glance. He could almost hear the fractures forming in the crew's loyalty. Fear, he whispered, scratching the dog's ear. It eats them faster than fire ever could. All we need is a push. Down below, Talon clenched his fist. Next time we see that dog, he growled, we finish it. No more games. But his crew exchanged doubtful glances, their unity cracking under the weight of shadows. And from the tree-lean, two golden eyes glowed, watching, waiting. The forest settled into uneasy silence. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig made the bikers stiffen. Their firelight carved the clearing into a fragile island, surrounded by darkness that felt alive. Snake flicked away his cigarette, his nerves frayed. We're sitting ducks out here, he muttered. Waiting for something to jump us. Nothing's out there, Talon barked, though his voice betrayed strain. It's in your head. But the old man in the shadows decided the time had come. From his pack, he drew a small sound emitter, a relic of his ranger days. He adjusted the dials, then flicked it on. A low, guttural growl rolled through the woods. It wasn't close, not yet, but it was enough. Every biker froze. Jesse, the youngest of them, gripped his knife with trembling hands. That wasn't my imagination, he whispered. Snake's smirk vanished, replaced by raw unease. Coyote? Wolf? Doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it's watching us. Talon clenched his jaw, sweeping a flashlight across the trees. Branches swayed, shadows leapt, but nothing revealed itself. His command snapped sharp, but it couldn't mask his nerves. Stay tight. No one runs. The growl came again, closer this time. The fire spat sparks as if recoiling. From the tree-lean, the dog crouched low, amber eyes glowing faintly as he moved like a phantom. He didn't need to attack. Not yet. His presence alone, paired with the ranger's trickery, was enough to fray the edges of courage. One biker muttered, "We're being hunted." And for the first time, even Talon didn't deny it. The second growl lingered in the night air, vibrating through the clearing like a warning drum. The bikers shifted closer to one another, their bravado peeling away with every heartbeat. Jesse's voice cracked as he whispered, "What if it's not alone?" His wide eyes darted into the trees as though expecting glowing shapes to step out at any moment. "Shut your mouth," Talon snapped, though sweat traced his temple. He gripped a wrench in one hand, the flashlight in the other, sweeping its beam in jerky arcs. The trees mocked him, every shadow twisting into the shape of imagined beasts. Snake's patience broke. He hissed, "I told you something's out there. This isn't just a mutt sniffing for scraps. We shouldn't even be here." The ranger turned a dial on the emitter, and the woods answered with the snap of a branch, loud, deliberate, like footsteps circling them. The bikers spun in unison, flashlights slashing through the dark. Nothing. Just trees and the hush of the forest. Enough of this. Axel, the youngest hothead of the crew, broke first. His nerves unraveled as he sprinted toward his bike, fumbling with the ignition. "I'm not dying out here. Get back here." Talon roared, but it was too late. Axel gunned the engine, the roar of his escape echoing through the forest until it faded into the night. Silence dropped heavy. The crew stared at the fire, their numbers thinner, their unity cracked. In the shadows above, the old man exhaled slowly. One gone, he murmured to the golden-eyed dog beside him. The others will follow, piece by piece. The dog's tail flicked once, his eyes gleaming with purpose. The hunt had only just begun. The clearing felt emptier without Axel, though his absence only deepened the tension. The fire burned low, throwing long, trembling shadows across hardened faces. No one laughed now. Snake broke the silence first, his voice harsh. "You see what's happening? We're being stalked, played with. That mutt and whatever else is out there, they're hunting us." Talon rounded on him, fury flashing in his eyes. "You call yourself a rider and you're scared of shadows? It's just a dog." But even as he spoke, the words rang hollow. His grip on the wrench tightened, knuckles pale. He had seen the intelligence in those amber eyes. That wasn't just a dog. Jesse leaned forward, his voice low but firm. "It's not in our heads, Talon. Something's out there. We're not in control anymore." The old man crouched higher up the slope, listening. His face was calm, but inside he felt the shift. The dog had done its work well. The seed of doubt was rooted deep in the crew's hearts. All he needed to do was water it. He tapped the emitter again. From the woods, a sharp howl rang out, closer than before. It was joined by another, deeper growl on the opposite side of the clearing. The bikers spun, weapons raised, eyes wide. The fire sputtered as if shrinking from the sound. Snake's breathing grew ragged. "They're circling us," he muttered. "I swear to God, they're circling us." Talon wanted to snap back, to deny it, but his words caught in his throat. Because in that moment, he believed it too. And the forest seemed to lean closer, listening, waiting for its prey to break. The forest pressed against the clearing, every rustle louder than it should have been, every shadow stretching too long. The bikers huddled close to the dying fire, their bravado stripped away like leather worn thin. Then it came, a single bark. Sharp. Commanding. It sliced through the night like a blade. The men jolted, eyes whipping toward the trees. A low whine followed, then silence. The dog had announced itself, not as prey but as a presence they could not ignore. Jesse gripped Snake's arm. "It's out there. It's watching us." His whisper shook with fear. Snake's knife glinted in the firelight, his bravado crumbling. "No stray plays like this. No stray waits this long." Talon's jaw clenched. His pride screamed for control, but doubt gnawed at his gut. He shouted into the trees, voice cracking with rage. "Come on, then. You want to scare us? Show yourself." For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then, from the edge of the clearing, two golden eyes glowed. The dog stepped into view, silent, deliberate. His stance was low, muscles taut, but his gaze was calm. He stared at them as if he were the one deciding their fate. The crew froze. No one dared move. The fire popped, sending sparks into the night, but none of them looked away from those eyes. Snake swallowed hard. "That's no dog," he muttered. "That's a demon." The animal gave a single wag of its tail, slow, measured, before letting out another bark, louder this time. The sound echoed through the clearing, bouncing off the trees like a warning shot. The bikers felt it in their bones. They weren't the hunters anymore. They were the hunted. The fire dwindled to embers, its glow too weak to fight back the dark. The golden-eyed dog remained at the edge of the clearing, unflinching, a silent sentinel. His gaze moved from face to face as though measuring their resolve. Jesse's breathing was ragged. He backed up until his shoulders hit the side of his bike. "We need to leave," he whispered. "Right now. Before it does something." "Shut up," Talon snapped, though the tremor in his voice betrayed him. He raised the wrench, pointing it toward the dog as if the gesture alone could drive it back. "It's one animal. We outnumber it." Snake barked a bitter laugh. "You still don't get it. It's not alone. Didn't you hear the howls? Didn't you feel it circling us? That thing's got help out there." The dog stepped forward, slow and steady, closing the distance by a single stride. His growl was low, controlled, but heavy enough to freeze Talon in place. "See!" Snake hissed, his knife clutched tight. He's not scared of us. He's testing us. The silence fractured into mutters, doubts spilling into the open. One biker cursed under his breath. Another shifted restlessly, eyes darting to the trees as though expecting more glowing eyes to appear. Up on the ridge, the old man watched, his lips pressed into a thin line. He tapped the sound emitter, and the forest answered with a sharp crack, as if a heavy branch had snapped under unseen weight. The men spun in panic, flashlights whipping through the dark. Their unity was breaking, loyalty unraveling into suspicion and fear. The ranger's eyes narrowed as he murmured to the dog beside him, "They're close to the edge. One more push and they'll tear themselves apart." The bikers froze at the sound of the branch snapping. Flashlight beams slashed wildly across the treeline, but the forest swallowed their light whole. The only certainty was the steady gaze of the golden-eyed dog, still fixed on them with unnerving calm. Then, from the darkness, another shape emerged. Larger, darker, its fur black as midnight. It moved with silent precision until it stood just behind the first dog, its growl rumbling like distant thunder. The crew recoiled. Jesse gasped, his voice trembling. "There's two. Oh God, there's two." Snake's hand shook so violently the knife nearly slipped from his grip. "I told you. This isn't normal. They're working together." Talon's face twisted with stubborn defiance, but his eyes betrayed the fear gnawing at him. He barked, "It doesn't matter. 2 dogs or 10, we'll handle them. Stay tight." But his command rang hollow. The men were already unraveling. Their breaths came fast, eyes darting between the glowing eyes and the shadows that seemed to shift with unseen movement. The black dog paced the clearing's edge, circling like a predator testing boundaries. The golden-eyed dog barked once, sharp, deliberate. The black dog vanished back into the trees as if obeying an order. The men stared in disbelief. Snake's voice cracked. "Did you see that? They're taking commands. Like soldiers." The golden-eyed dog remained, unshaken. His gaze lingered on Talon, a challenge etched in silence. From the ridge, the old man's fingers tightened on the whistle device. His eyes shone with grim satisfaction. "Good," he whispered. "They've seen the truth now. They know they're not facing beasts, they're facing judgment." The clearing seemed to shrink as the night deepened. The golden-eyed dog sat calmly in the dirt, but from the woods came a chorus of low growls. One to the left, another behind, a third off in the distance. Each sound stacked upon the last until it became a cage of noise. The bikers pressed closer to the fire, their eyes wild. Jesse clutched his knife, so tight his knuckles went white. "They're everywhere," he whispered. "We're surrounded." Snake's bravado had long since burned away. Sweat rolled down his temple as he muttered, "We should have left hours ago." Talon swung his flashlight in wide arcs, but the beam caught nothing but branches swaying in the night breeze. His teeth clenched, rage masking fear. "It's tricks. Just tricks. They want us to panic." As if in answer, the howls rose again, this time in perfect rhythm. A call and response, as though invisible sentinels were speaking to one another. The bikers flinched at every echo, their fire now a weak, sputtering heart in a sea of predators. From the shadows above, the old man adjusted the emitter, deepening the illusion. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes never left the men below. "They feel it now," he murmured to the golden-eyed dog at his side. "Pray. They finally understand." The stray's tail twitched once, his body taut with restrained power. He had drawn them into the web, and now fear was the tightening thread. Snake turned suddenly, glaring at Talon. "You led us here. You said we could handle it. Look at us now, we're cornered by ghosts." The leader's face twisted, torn between pride and the creeping truth in Snake's words. For the first time, he faltered. And in that hesitation, the night itself seemed to close in tighter. The clearing was thick with fear. The bikers stood shoulder to shoulder, but their unity was gone, splintered by doubt. The golden-eyed dog hadn't moved in minutes, his calm stillness more terrifying than any attack. Jesse's voice shook as he spoke. "We can't stay here. If we wait, they'll come for us. We have to leave." "No," Talon snapped, his eyes blazing with defiance. "Running proves nothing. We're not prey." He gripped his wrench as though it alone could hold the night at bay. Snake stepped forward, his knife gleaming in the dying firelight. "You don't get it, do you? Look around you. We're not the hunters here. We're the ones being toyed with. That mud is smarter than us, and you're too blind to see it." The tension snapped like a live wire. Talon shoved Snake, rage spilling from his control. "You calling me blind? You calling me weak?" Snake shoved him back, spitting words like venom. "I'm saying you're gonna get us all killed." The crew erupted into shouting, their voices clashing with the echoes of growls in the woods. The forest seemed to listen, feeding their anger, waiting for the crack to become a fracture. Then it came. A howl tore through the night, louder, sharper, commanding. It silenced every man instantly. The golden-eyed dog rose to his feet. His stance was steady, his eyes locked on Talon. No sound came from his throat, but the message was clear. The leader faltered, caught between fury and the weight of that gaze. For the first time, he felt it fully, not defiance, not insolence, but judgment. Up on the ridge, the old man exhaled. "They're close," he whispered. "One more step, and the pack will close the circle." The night pressed harder against the clearing, every shadow alive with menace. The golden-eyed dog advanced a single stride, his paws silent, his gaze never breaking from Talon. Around them, the forest erupted with movement, rustling leaves, snapping twigs, a steady rhythm of unseen bodies drawing closer. The bikers whipped around in panic, flashlights slicing through the dark, catching only fleeting glimpses of shapes between the trees. Jesse's breath hitched. "There's more of them. I swear, there's more." Snake's voice was raw with fear. "It's a pack. They've been waiting for this." Talon clenched his jaw, forcing his fear down with sheer will. "Then we fight," he spat. But even his crew heard the crack in his tone, the hollowness behind his word. The dog gave a low growl, deep and steady, echoing like a drumbeat of war. And then, as if summoned by his signal, glowing eyes began to appear. One pair, then 3, then 5, circling the clearing with silent intent. The fire sputtered, barely strong enough to hold the darkness back. The men stood frozen, weapons shaking in their hands, every instinct screaming at them to run. From above, the old man watched, his device silent now. He didn't need tricks anymore. The dogs had taken their places, each one trained, each one loyal, each one a survivor like their golden-eyed leader. "They're surrounded," he murmured. "The pack holds the noose. All that's left is for the rope to tighten." In the clearing, Talon's defiance buckled. His eyes darted from one glowing pair to another, sweat dripping down his temple. The truth pressed heavy on his chest. They weren't a crew of predators anymore. They were quarry, trapped in the jaws of something greater. The bikers stood rigid, their weapons trembling as more eyes flickered to life among the trees. One by one, dogs stepped into view, lean, scarred survivors, each carrying the weight of battles won against hunger, cruelty, and abandonment. They formed a wide circle, their silent coordination more unnerving than a full charge. Jesse's knees nearly buckled. "There's too many," he whispered. "We can't fight this." Snake's face was pale, his bravado shattered. "Talon, we're finished. You know it. Look at them, they're not wild. They're soldiers." The golden-eyed dog barked once, sharp and commanding. The pack froze, their eyes locked on the bikers, their bodies tense as coiled springs. It wasn't a signal to attack. It was a warning, "You're ours." Talon raised his wrench, rage burning hot against his fear. "I don't care how many there are," he snarled. "We don't bow to mutts." But his hand shook. His crew saw it. His authority, once iron, was corroding under the dog's gaze. Then the forest parted. A figure emerged slowly from the shadows, An old man, steady as stone, the dogs parting around him like soldiers making way for a general. His eyes were sharp, his step deliberate. The bikers froze, torn between shock and fear. Snake hissed under his breath, "So it isn't just the dogs." The golden-eyed stray moved to the old man's side, his tail flicking once before he sat tall, as if declaring his allegiance. The ranger's voice was calm but heavy, each word cutting through the firelight. "You thought he was just a stray. You mocked him. You tried to break him. But you were wrong. He chose you, and now you'll answer for it." The pack growled in unison, the sound a rolling thunder in the night. For the first time, Talon's grip on his weapon loosened. The clearing was silent but for the growl of the pack. The old man stood tall, his weathered face lit by firelight, his shadow stretching long across the dirt. At his side, the golden-eyed dog sat unwavering, eyes fixed on Talon like a judge awaiting a verdict. "You think you're untouchable," the ranger said, his voice low but cutting. "But out here, without your engines and your noise, you're nothing. You mocked a life you didn't understand. And now you face the consequences." Snake's voice cracked as he blurted, "We didn't know. We thought it was just a mutt." The old man's gaze hardened. "Ignorance is no excuse. Every scar on these dogs came from men like you, careless, cruel, thinking their laughter outweighed another's pain." Jesse lowered his knife, shame flickering in his eyes. We didn't mean," his words trailed off, hollow even to his own ears. Talon stepped forward, wrench still in hand though his grip faltered. "You can't lecture us. You're one old man with a pack of strays. You think that makes you strong?" The golden-eyed dog rose, his growl rumbling deep. His pack shifted with him, their bodies tense, their eyes gleaming. One bark, one signal, and they would close in. The ranger's voice sharpened, steel beneath calm. "Strength isn't in cruelty. It's in loyalty. It's in standing for something greater than yourself. This dog stood against you with nothing but his will, and you, armed and many, quailed before him." The words struck deeper than any blade. Snake's face crumpled. Jesse looked at the ground. Even Talon's defiance wavered beneath the weight of judgment. The old man took a step closer, his eyes cold. "So, tell me, are you men? Or are you cowards hiding behind engines and noise?" The pack's growls deepened, pressing the question into their bones. And for the first time, Talon had no answer. The night pressed in heavy, the circle of dogs unbroken. Their eyes burned like embers in the dark, each growl vibrating through the earth. The bikers stood trapped, stripped of swagger, their weapons hanging useless in their hands. The ranger's voice carried through the silence. "You mocked him. You tried to break him. Now you will bow to him. Not me, him." He pointed at the golden-eyed dog, whose gaze blazed like firelight against steel. Snake's mouth went dry. His knife slipped from trembling fingers and clattered to the dirt. He lowered himself slowly, his knees hitting the ground. His head bowed in shame, his voice barely audible. "I'm sorry." Jesse followed, tears stinging his eyes as he whispered, "Forgive us. We didn't know." Talon stood rigid, fury warring with fear. His pride screamed to resist, but the weight of the pack bore down on him. The golden-eyed dog stepped closer, growling low, amber eyes piercing through the leader's defiance. The ranger's tone sharpened. "Every second you hesitate, you prove what you are. Not strong. Not fearless. Weak." The word cut Talon deeper than any blade. His hand shook around the wrench before it dropped, heavy against the dirt. His knees buckled. Slowly, painfully, he lowered himself until he knelt like the others. The pack quieted, their growls fading into watchful silence. The golden-eyed dog stopped a breath away from Talon, his eyes locked on the man's. The leader dared not move. For the first time in years, Talon bowed, not to a man, not to a weapon, but to a dog who had stood unbroken. The ranger's voice softened, but it carried the weight of command. "Now begins your penance." The men lifted their eyes, shaken, knowing their lives would never be the same. The ranger turned his back to the bikers, walking toward the trees with the golden-eyed dog at his side. The pack parted to let him pass, their silent discipline more terrifying than chaos. Without looking back, he called, "Follow me. You've taken the first step, but words are nothing without deeds." Snake and Jesse scrambled to their feet, eager to obey. Talon lingered, his pride stinging like an open wound, but the eyes of the pack burned into him until he finally rose and followed. The walk through the forest was long and quiet. The bikers stumbled over roots and rocks, their flashlights shaking, but the old man moved with ease, guided by memory. The dogs padded along the flanks, forming a living corridor that funneled the men deeper into the woods. At last they emerged into a clearing bathed in pale moonlight. A small cabin stood at its heart, rough but sturdy, with kennels and fenced runs scattered around it. The air carried the scent of hay, food, and fur. From within the pens, faint whimpers and soft barks rose, the sound of other rescued strays. "This," the ranger said, turning to face them, "is their sanctuary. A place of healing. A place where the abandoned learn they are not forgotten." Jesse's throat tightened as he looked around. Dogs peeked out from shadows, their eyes wary but curious. He whispered, "There's so many." The old man's gaze hardened. "Every one of them carries scars. Some visible, some not. And every scar was given by hands like yours." The weight of his words sank deep. Snake lowered his head in shame. Even Talon found no retort. The ranger stepped aside, gesturing toward the kennels. "You will feed them. Clean for them. Tend to them. You will earn back the humanity you threw away, one act of care at a time." The golden-eyed dog sat at the threshold of the cabin, his stare reminding them this was no request. It was the law of the sanctuary. The old man handed out tasks with the precision of a commander. "You water. You bedding. You feed them." His finger pointed, his tone leaving no room for refusal. Snake moved first, hauling a heavy bucket to fill metal bowls lined against the kennel fence. His hands trembled, sloshing water onto the dirt, but the dogs approached cautiously, their eyes reflecting distrust that cut deeper than words. Jesse carried a sack of kibble, scooping it into dented pans. At first the strays stayed back, but the smell of food coaxed them closer. A young pup nosed forward, tail wagging tentatively. Jesse crouched, holding the pan low. When the pup dared to eat, his chest ached with something he hadn't felt in years: gentleness. Talon dragged clean straw into a pen, his movements harsh, mechanical. A scarred shepherd mix growled from the corner, hackles raised. Talon froze, wrenching down his instinct to lash out. Slowly, he set the bedding down, backing away. The dog sniffed, then settled on the fresh straw. Talon exhaled, realizing he had just earned the faintest sliver of trust. The ranger watched silently, his arms crossed. The golden-eyed dog sat beside him, tail curled around his paws, eyes sharp as if judging every movement. Hours passed. The bikers, once terrors of the road, now toiled under the gaze of creatures they had mocked. Their hands grew blistered, their backs ached, but with each act of care, the air shifted. The growls softened to quiet sniffs. Tension melted into uneasy peace. When dawn crept over the treetops, the old man finally spoke. "One night does not erase what you've done. But it can begin to change what you will do." The golden-eyed dog wagged his tail once, as if to seal the lesson. And for the first time, Talon looked at him not with defiance, but with respect. The first rays of sunlight stretched across the sanctuary, painting the clearing in pale gold. The forest stirred with birdsong, a fragile contrast to the weight of the night before. The bikers sat slumped near the cabin, exhausted from their labor. Their leather jackets were streaked with straw, dirt, and the smell of dogs. Yet for the first time, none of them seemed to care. Snake rubbed his sore shoulders, watching a limping hound lap from the water bowl he had filled. "Never thought I'd be babysitting mutts," he muttered, but his tone was softer, almost reverent. Jesse leaned against the fence, a pup curled asleep against his boot. He didn't move, afraid to disturb it. His voice was hushed. Feels different. Like they're not afraid anymore. Talon sat apart, silent, staring at the golden-eyed dog lying nearby. Alex. He had heard the name whispered by the ranger. That dog's gaze hadn't left him once, and it unsettled him in ways fists and knives never had. The ranger emerged from the cabin, his weathered face calm but unreadable. He carried a small wooden box, its lid etched with faded marks. Setting it on the ground, he spoke. You've taken the first step. But redemption is not found in a single night. It's earned every day. He opened the box. Inside lay a collection of tags, each engraved with a dog's name. He held them up one by one. These belong to the souls you've met here. Each one carries a story of survival. Keep them. Let them remind you of the weight you now share. Jesse accepted his with reverence. Snake took his reluctantly, but held it tight. When Talon's turn came, the old man offered him a tag marked with Alex's name. Talon hesitated, his throat tight. His hand closed around the tag, his voice low, almost broken. I'll carry it. The golden-eyed dog raised his head, tail flicking once, as if acknowledging the promise. The morning light grew warmer, spilling across the clearing as the ranger closed the wooden box. The men stood in silence, each clutching their tag, each weighed down by its meaning. Talon stared at the one in his hand, Alex. His thumb traced the etched letters as the golden-eyed dog watched him intently. For the first time, Talon's hardened mask cracked, revealing something almost fragile beneath. Does he stay here? Talon asked, his voice low. The ranger's weathered eyes softened. Alex belongs where he chooses. He's not chained, not bound. He decides who is worthy of his loyalty. As if hearing his name, Alex rose and padded toward Talon. The biker stiffened, uncertain, but the dog pressed his head against the man's knee, tail wagging once. Snake let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Jesse smiled faintly. Looks like he's made his choice. Talon swallowed hard, bending slightly to scratch behind Alex's ear. The simple act stirred a memory he had long buried, a pup he once had as a child, left behind when his family moved. Guilt cut deep. The ranger's voice was steady, carrying both warning and hope. If he goes with you, it is not a gift. It is a responsibility. Fail him, and you fail yourself. Talon nodded slowly, his voice hoarse. I won't. Not this time. Alex's tail wagged again, a silent seal to the pact. The bond, once sparked on the side of a highway, now burned brighter than ever. The ranger turned his gaze to all three men. You've tasted what it means to care. But beyond this sanctuary lies the world you came from. The true test waits there. The pack, scattered around the clearing, lifted their heads as if in agreement. The sanctuary was no prison. It was a beginning. By midday, the sanctuary buzzed with life. Dogs played in the fenced runs, their barks sharp against the hum of cicadas. The bikers prepared their bikes, leather jackets hanging loose, their swagger gone but not forgotten. The ranger stood with arms folded, his gaze sharp but not unkind. You've worked here. You've fed, cleaned, and cared. But redemption isn't proven in a single night or a single dawn. It's proven in what you choose once you leave this place. Snake adjusted his gloves, the tag in his pocket heavy like a stone. So we just ride different? Just like that. The ranger's voice was calm, resolute. Not different overnight. Better, one choice at a time. Jesse glanced down at the pup still shadowing his step. It whined when he moved toward his bike, and his heart tightened. He crouched, patting its head gently. I'll come back, he whispered. I promise. Talon mounted his bike last, Alex sitting proudly in the makeshift sidecar. The dog's golden eyes scanned the forest as though claiming it one final time before setting out. The ranger approached Talon, placing a hand on his shoulder. You carry more than your crew now. You carry him. Remember that. For a moment, Talon met his eyes, then nodded firmly. I will. Engines roared to life, but their sound was different now, not the chaos of domination, but the steady beat of men changed by trial. Dust rose as they rolled down the dirt path, the sanctuary fading behind them. The ranger watched until the last echo of their engines disappeared. Only then did he turn back to the pack, murmuring, "The forest has judged. Now the world will see if they endure." Alex, riding with the bikers, turned once, his golden eyes glinting in the sunlight, as if promising he would return. The roar of engines carried the three bikers down winding roads until they reached a small rest stop on the edge of the highway. They cut their engines, and silence rushed in, broken only by the chirp of distant cicadas. Alex leapt from the sidecar, tail wagging as he sniffed at the dry grass and littered picnic benches. The simple joy in his movements struck the men harder than they expected. Jesse sank onto a bench, his tag dangling from a chain around his neck. "Feels strange," he murmured. "Riding without the noise in my head. Without the weight of trying to scare everyone." Snake leaned against his bike, chewing at his lip. "Strange, yeah. But lighter. Like I can breathe again." Talon sat apart, silent, staring at Alex as the dog padded back to his side. The tag burned in his hand. 4 years he had led with fear, fists, and fury. Now, a stray with steady eyes had turned all of that into dust. "Do you think we deserve this?" Jesse asked softly, glancing at Alex. "A second chance?" Talon finally spoke, his voice low. "Doesn't matter if we deserve it. What matters is if we take it." He reached down, scratching Alex's neck. "And not waste it." For a moment, peace hung over the rest stop, fragile but real. The morning sun warmed their faces, and the road stretched endless ahead of them. Snake kicked a pebble across the pavement. "So, where to now?" Talon looked toward the horizon, eyes narrowing. "Wherever the road takes us. But this time, we ride for something more than ourselves." Alex barked once, as if in agreement, and the men felt the weight of his judgment steadying their path forward. The rumble of the old car faded into the distance, leaving only silence at the rest stop. For the first time in a long while, the bikers felt small, 3 men staring down a road that stretched forever, with no leader but their own choices. Jesse sat heavily on the bench, his hands covering his face. "I didn't think it would hurt this much," he admitted. "He wasn't even ours, but it feels like losing family." Snake kicked at the gravel, his voice rough. "That much showed more guts than any of us ever did. He faced us down when we thought we were kings of the road. And we," he stopped, shaking his head. "We're not the same men we were before him." Talon leaned against his bike, arms folded tight across his chest. His jaw was clenched, but his eyes betrayed the storm inside. Alex's absence felt like a missing heartbeat. Yet beneath the ache was something new, a weight lifted, a chance earned. "He did what we couldn't," Talon said quietly. "He stood against us. He made us face what we are. And now, it's on us to prove we can be more." The wind rustled dry grass along the highway, carrying the faint scent of gasoline and dust. The world seemed emptier without the dog, yet it also felt clearer, as if the path ahead had finally been swept clean. Jesse straightened, wiping his eyes. "Then let's not waste it. We owe him that much." Snake nodded, his tag clinking faintly against his jacket. "Yeah. For Alex." The 3 men mounted their bikes. Engines growled to life, but the sound no longer felt like dominance, it was a promise. They rode out, leaving the rest stop behind. Empty, yes, but changed. The highway stretched wide and endless before them, the roar of their bikes weaving into the morning wind. Yet the ride felt different now. It wasn't a march of arrogance or power, it was a rhythm steady and purposeful, bound by an unspoken vow. They pulled into a diner miles down the road, a place they once might have stormed with swagger. Now they walked in quietly. The waitress stiffened at the sight of leather and tattoos, her pen trembling in her hand. "Coffee?" she asked cautiously. "Please," Talon said simply. His voice was calm, almost polite. The woman blinked in surprise before nodding and hurrying off. The three sat in silence, the clink of cutlery and hum of chatter filling the space. Jesse glanced at the family seated nearby, two kids laughing as their small dog curled beneath the table. He smiled faintly, the ache in his chest warming into something softer. "Think Alex is happy?" Jesse asked. Snake stirred his coffee, watching the steam curl. "Yeah. He's home. That's what matters." Talon didn't answer at first. His hand tightened around the tag in his pocket, Alex's name etched deep into the metal. Finally, he spoke. "What matters now is us. We can't go back. Not after this." Snake nodded. "Then we make a new code. No more cruelty. No more riding just to tear things down. From here on, we ride with purpose." Jesse leaned forward, his voice firm. "For Alex. For every scar we caused. For every chance we still have left." The waitress returned, setting down steaming mugs. She offered a cautious smile this time, sensing something different in the men before her. Talon lifted his cup, eyes steady. Then it settled. A new code. They clinked their mugs together, not in celebration but in promise. The diner door swung shut behind them as they stepped back into the sunlight. Their engines roared once more, carrying them away from the safety of small towns and into the open road. But with every mile, the ghosts of their past rode close behind. Snake was the first to speak over the wind, his voice crackling through the helmet's radios. "You think the crew will let us walk away this easy?" Talon's grip on the handlebars tightened. "No. They'll come looking. And when they do, we'll be ready." Jesse's voice wavered. "Ready how? We're not killers anymore. We can't fight them the same way." "We don't need to," Talon replied. "We just need to stand. Together." The road bent toward an abandoned overpass, graffiti and rust marking the territory they once claimed as their own. Memories bled from the crumbling concrete, fights, raids, nights filled with arrogance and fury. Now it loomed like a reminder of what they had been. Snake slowed his bike, scanning the shadows beneath the bridge. "Feels like they're still here," he muttered. "Watching. Waiting." Talon pulled to a stop, killing his engine. The silence hit harder than noise ever could. He pulled the tag from his pocket, staring at Alex's name etched in metal. His reflection wavered in the shine, distorted, reminding him of the man he had been. "We're not them anymore," Talon said, his voice low but resolute. "This is where we bury it." He dropped the tag onto the cracked concrete, the metallic clink echoing in the hollow bridge. Jesse and Snake followed suit, their tags hitting the ground in turn. For a long moment, the three men stood in silence, watching their past lie broken in the dirt. Then Talon spoke again, eyes narrowing at the horizon. "From here on, we ride clean. No more shadows. No more chains." Their engines roared to life once more, carrying them away from the ruins of who they once were. The sun dipped low as the bikers cut across a desolate stretch of highway. Shadows stretched long, and the orange horizon burned like fire at the edge of the earth. The wind was sharp, carrying the scent of dust and asphalt. But peace was short-lived. In the distance, the low rumble of engines grew. Familiar. Menacing. Snake's eyes narrowed in his side mirror. "They found us." Headlights pierced the gloom as three motorcycles approached fast, their riders clad in the same leather and patches the trio once wore. Old brothers, now turned hunters. Jesse's voice trembled over the radio. "What do we do?" Talon's jaw set, his voice calm but heavy. "We don't run. Not anymore." The rival bikes closed in, their engines snarling, their riders shouting over the roar. One drew level with Snake, sneering. "Thought you could walk away, traitor?" Snake gritted his teeth but didn't answer. His grip tightened on the bars, the weight of the new code heavy in his chest. The three pursuers swerved closer, trying to shove them off the road. Tires screeched, metal scraped. Jesse nearly lost balance, heart pounding as he fought to stay upright. "Easy," Talon barked. "Hold steady. Don't give them what they want." The attackers jeered, circling like vultures. One swung a chain, metal links glinting in the last rays of sun. But Talon's eyes burned with something different now, not cruelty, not dominance, but resolve. "We ride for something more," he growled. "And they'll know it." The highway stretched ahead, a battleground drawn by fate. The past had returned to test them, and this time, the fight was not for power. It was for redemption.